Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and I'm welcoming Lauren Neustadter, executive producer of the Amazon Prime Video limited series Daisy Jones and the Six, to our PGA Awards Meet the Nominees panel. Lauren, you've spoken before about how competitive the bidding war was to win the rights to produce the Taylor Jenkins Reid novel on which the series is based. Half of Hollywood seemed to be after it. Is that what was that process like?
It's true. Lots of people wanted it. All credit goes to my husband, actually, Scott Neustadter, who read the book and fell madly in love with it and really declared not only that he wanted to adapt it, but that he wanted to do it with Hello Sunshine. I had only been working with Reese for a couple of months, so he bet on us, which we really appreciated, and then we sort of went after it together. I remember he received it on a Friday. By the time we had dinner, he had finished it. He reads really fast and I read really slow. So I stayed up well into the night reading. And I remember that it was over July 4th weekend. I remember emailing Reese and saying, I know you're on vacation, but I need you to take your iPad to the beach. And she took her iPad to the beach and she was 3 hours ahead of me. So by the time I woke up, she was halfway through the book and we were just like, we have to do this. And so I there was a lot of competition, but I think we had a lot of passion, and we were so lucky that Taylor ultimately chose to go with us, and we had the opportunity to tell this story.
And Reese, of course, being Reese Witherspoon, your production partner, was so this was not a tough sell. She took it to the beach, she read it, she was on board.
I mean, I feel like for anybody who has read the book, it's love at first read. I mean, we really loved it, and I think for a company that is all about putting women at the center of the story and showing them as heroes of their own stories in unconventional ways, Daisy Jones was really the perfect hero for us. And I also think a lot of the other producers that were in conversation with Taylor imagined it as a movie. And Scott very clearly saw it as a series and felt like he did not want to have to truncate the story that Taylor so beautifully told in her novel, but he really wanted to expand it and tell it episodically so that we could know every single one of the characters and every member of the band and really fall in love with them. So that was our goal from the very beginning.
So Scott immediately saw this as what, six, eight, as many
13.
as 10 episodes.
It was 13 episodes. When we presented it to Amazon, he had it laid out as 13 episodes. We wound up condensing it to 11, and then COVID happened. We were meant to start shooting in April of 2020. So we shut down in March, and then all credit to Amazon, they really kept us alive. We would have been a very easy show to say goodbye to at the height of COVID. We were sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was everything that was hard to produce, and they really didn't give up on us. And what they did say is these COVID expenses are going to be tremendous. So we need to bring it down to 10 episodes. And so we worked really hard to not sacrifice story, but figure out how do we fit it inside of 10 episodes. And then we started filming the show. And also the band really had the benefit during COVID of being able to learn how to play and how to sing. And they really became musicians and they became a band. The bonding among them was incredible. And I think it really shows on screen.
I was going to say, Lauren, that ended up being a little bit of a blessing in disguise, right? I mean, giving your actors time to turn into real musicians.
It's a strange thing to say that for this show, COVID was an unexpected blessing. But I think it really was. I mean, these actors needed the time to learn how to really play every song and for Riley and Sam to sing every note so beautifully. And I think the show feels authentic because it really was authentic. By the time that we came back together and with our intense COVID protocols went into band camp, they were a band. They knew how to play every song and they were playing it live. And we actually wound up, before we started shooting, I said to them, I said, I know that I'm not going to win a popularity contest for this, but I think you have to perform live. I think you have to feel it. And so we had 40 people, which was the max capacity in the room. We tested everybody 3 times before they came in. Everyone was socially distant. They were wearing masks, but the band performed for all of our heads of department and everybody, all of the bigwigs at Amazon. They got a show from Daisy Jones and the Six, and it was really pretty incredible. I feel like it was beyond my wildest dreams, to be honest.
And then you end up putting out an album. I mean, I don't just admit this to just anyone, Lauren, but I'm old enough just barely to remember when the Monkees became a phenomenon from 1966 to 68. In fact, I
You
was part of a little
appreciate
kid
this
test
era.
audience. I was part of a little kid test audience for the show in early '66. You know, the
So
first fictitious band, of course, to become a real one. And Daisy Jones and the Six, for all intents and purposes, was a real band. They put out the album Aurora. You must have been pinching yourself.
I mean, beyond we got nominated for a Grammy. Like this was, they were the top of the Billboard Emerging Artists list. The email that we would send among producers and cast, just saying, guys, we did it. You're a real band. Like this was, I will say, as producing goes, this was the highest degree of difficulty. But it was also just the biggest dream come true. And I feel like it's one of those things where we say that we all became a band in making it, but it's really true that if every single person hadn't shown up and really given 110%, the show wouldn't have been what it was. And I think, it's really evident that everybody took it very seriously and cared so much. And it was just hard. It was hard at the Emmys to say goodbye.
How did you pull off, Lauren, all these massive concert sequences and make a project? I mean, about sex, drugs, and rock and roll at the height of a pandemic. I can't even imagine. I mean, with everybody's distancing and wearing masks, and you can't tell any of that from watching the series.
Well, it was really a team effort. I mean, our production designer, Jessica Kender, our Emmy-winning wardrobe designer, Denise Wingate, and our incredible post team that was led by Mandy Price really worked incredibly closely together. So, for example, Soldier Field, we actually shot that in New Orleans, and we waited until the sun went down, and we shot from when the sun went down until the sun came up, and we shot it at a place called Tad Gormley Stadium, which actually is a place where I went to high school in New Orleans, and that's where we would have high school track meets. So we turned that into Soldier Field, and it was really a combination of this incredible build that Jess imagined, and she actually sourced vintage lighting. Like every single detail was authentic, and Denise did this unbelievable job with the wardrobe. And I remember, I mean, I was there every single night, all night, but I remember that we had the max number of extras that we could have. And we would actually sort of have them stand in a section, and we would tile, section by section by section. And our music supervisor, Frankie Pine, who's so incredible and worked so hard with the band, would sit there and hype the extras and get everybody dancing. And then we actually in post realized that we needed more people. So Mandy, our post supervisor, brought the post team and a whole bunch of extras into the parking lot at where we were doing post, and we actually filmed more and used that for additional tiling. I mean, it was a real undertaking, but kind of a massive achievement. I feel so proud of what we accomplished. And I will say, going in, we had no idea how ambitious it really was. It was only when we were in it that we were like, oh, wow, this is really hard, but we've got to figure it out. And I just feel really proud of the team that we did it together.
I mean, it was really sort of Daisy Jones and the Sick, because everyone around you had COVID.
Daisy Jones and the Sick. By the way, there was we built the Soldier Field stadium or the stage, and we got there and one of our actors tested positive. So we actually had to take the whole set down and get another date because they had a track meet coming into Tad Gormley Stadium. So we had to push the whole thing and build it again. I mean, this was a really resilient cast and crew. And I think we were going through what everybody was going through, but I think the scope and the scale of what we were endeavoring to do was really, it was pretty incredible. And I feel like, what a cool thing that we got to do this. How lucky are we?
What are the challenges, Lauren, in working so closely with your husband? Do you need to make firm rules to, separate work from family time? Was there a lot of "not now, honey" on the set?
It's so interesting. I think that it was probably the easiest part. He and I are really, I think, a pretty good pair, and we complement each other really well. I could never, ever, ever sit in front of a computer and imagine a world and hear the voices of characters in the way that he does. And I think that through my relationship with him and my admiration of what he does, I feel so much respect and reverence for writers. And I feel so lucky that I get to do this job. I don't mind having hard conversations. And I find that most writers that I encounter would prefer not to have the hard conversations. So I kind of find myself in the position of sort of, you know, running toward the fire. And I don't mind doing it. And I feel very privileged that I get to do it. So I think we were a good team. It was really a pleasure. We're excited to try to find another thing we can do together.
And you get to work with Reese Witherspoon as your production partner. How would you characterize that relationship?
Well, I mean, we joke that Scott is my husband and Reese is my wife. I have the best work wife in the biz. I mean, we're really, I think we're a very good pair. We're both really hardworking and really passionate about the work that we do. I think that we're both really good communicators. And I think I feel lucky to work for her for so many reasons. But one of them is I think she hires people who are really good at their jobs and then she lets them do their jobs. She is, when you hear the phrase empowered women empower women, I can't tell you how many mugs and t-shirts and plaques I've gotten for Reese that say that phrase, because I do think she is an empowered woman who empowers all of the women around her. And I think it's not easy to stand for so much. But I greatly respect the fact that she does, and that every single day she wakes up and thinks about how she can, you know, advance the roles of women in this industry and how she can be part of telling stories that center on women and reflect women's stories in ways that audiences haven't yet seen.
Fantastic. I think we're going to wrap it there, Lauren. Good
Thank
luck
you
to
so
you at
much.
the upcoming PGA Awards. Daisy Jones and the Six is currently streaming its 10 episodes over Prime Video. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.